Okay, Chapter 9, Evaluation and Discipline. So I'm going to start off this chapter. We're going to talk about performance evaluations and what performance evaluations are and how you can use performance evaluations, and just a little background on how I use performance evaluations in the past. So performance evaluation. So on the right, this is a copy of a performance evaluation that I put together a number of years ago when I was district chief, and I would use these performance evaluations to basically use it as a checkoff for the fire chiefs and fire officers that were under my command. So this is a company officer evaluation, but you can have firefighter performance evaluations. You can also have performance evaluations for driver operators or chauffeurs. Anyone has a special job in the fire service. Maybe you have a special operations group. There may be performance evaluations based on different components of rescue that you want to make sure that everyone meets. But looking at the performance evaluation, the way I set it up, I said there was a list of criteria on the left that I had put in that I was basically grading the officer on, and then it was either exceeds expectations, he got an excellent mark, meets expectations, got an average mark, needed some improvement, or needed much improvement. Now, one of the reasons I put this in, I started doing these evaluations when I was a district chief, was it kind of gave me a little bit of advantage if I were to come across a bad officer, someone that really maybe shouldn't be there. And so we're talking, this was in a volunteer service too. I had some leverage, say, listen, this guy, he's probably not the officer that you want. When I went back to the fire commissioners, it would be my recommendation that, if it came down to the fire company selecting one over another, at least I would have some background, some documentation that I had evaluated his performance or her performance, and said, this is, maybe that person is not the best fit in a volunteer fire department for a officer position. And again, a career side, you really want to have some type of documentation on how your fire officers, how your firefighters are doing on their job. It just serves to protect you and protect them down the line. It also allows for a work improvement plan. So performance evaluations, we're going to use, we can use the same performance evaluation, and we can set up a work improvement plan for our company members. All right. Use the performance evaluation as a guide in creating the plan. All right. Now, if a firefighter is going to be subject to a performance evaluation, he needs to know that up front. All right. There needs to be some lead time, saying that, listen, performance evaluations are going to be conducted, next month or whatever, or 2 months, and then do the evaluation. And if a firefighter or fire officer is substandard, he needs to be advised of his substandard performance. So there may be some counseling involved, and you need to allow the firefighter, the fire officer, time to change his behavior, his or her behavior, or their performance. So maybe 3 months or 6 months, then reevaluate again. So if the firefighter's performance is still unsatisfactory, then other corrective action needs to be taken. So that would bring us up to discipline when we start talking about corrective action. All right. If the work improvement, their work is not improving, something has. So when we talk about correcting unacceptable behavior, we're talking about some type of discipline. Now, when we talk about discipline, first of all, there needs to be some type of policy in place in your department as far as how discipline is going to be conducted. You just can't shoot from the hip and have nothing in place, because now you're really opening yourself up to litigation. If you terminate an individual, whether it be volunteer or career, without a disciplinary policy in place, you could have a suit for discrimination. So discipline needs to be progressive. So if it's going to be progressive, it also needs to be written down. It needs to be in some type of policy form in an employee handbook. It needs to be known to the employee. And again, when I say employee, that goes for volunteer or for career. So when we start dealing with discipline, one of the big things is it needs to be fair, especially if you're a company officer. It's the membership is going to see if you play favorites. So that's going to be an issue. So discipline has to be doled out, fairly. So you have to treat all individuals pretty much alike. I mean, you may have your, obviously, human behavior. You're going to have your favorite, members in the firehouse. But again, normally these members are the ones that are highly motivated. They're getting a lot of work done. They're using initiative, and the person that's going to need to be disciplined is probably the slacker, right? So, but you can't show favoritism. So when we talk about progressive discipline, we could start out with counseling the firefighter. So bring the firefighter in, say, listen, your performance is substandard. You need to step up your game in these areas. Here's some of the problems. So that may be a point where you're going to deliver or put together a work improvement plan for that firefighter. Now again, if the work doesn't improve or if there's other disciplinary issues, you can go to a verbal reprimand. Now if you're going to go to a verbal reprimand, it may not be, even though they say verbal, you still have to document it. So this would be a case, maybe you could put a memo to file, just stating that, on such and such a date I spoke with Firefighter Jones regarding an issue that we had. You may also use some type of logbook or a journal to put that in there. But again, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So then we go to a written reprimand. So if the verbal didn't work, you go to a written, and now this becomes a formal document. And again, this would be placed into the firefighter's personnel file, that on such and such a date you were issued a written reprimand for this problem. After the written reprimand, if the behavior still continues, then we're talking about possible suspension. And again, it could be suspended from responding to the firehouse if you're a volunteer firefighter, taking some perks away. If the fire company decides, well, you can't come to if we're having a picnic or a dinner or whatever, you're on suspension, you can't come, things like that. Career side, you're going to suspend the guy, you're going to take money away, all right? So that's going to hit him in the pocketbook, hit him or her in the pocketbook. And last but not least is going to be termination. They're going to lose their job. So that would be an example of progressive discipline. And again, document, document, document. If it's not written down, it didn't happen. All right, so let's talk about employee assistance program. So this plays right into discipline. A lot of times, if an employee is having an issue, and let's go back to that, we may have some zero tolerance policies in the firehouse or in the fire department. So if there's a zero tolerance policy for being under the influence of alcohol or a substance and reporting to work, if the employee comes forward and says, listen, I'm having a problem with alcohol, if I'm having a problem with drugs, and ask for help, your department should have an employee assistance program in place. So now basically it stops any discipline from happening, and the employee is allowed to go to the employee assistance program and start to get help. Right? It could be for it could be for alcohol abuse. It could be for stress on the job, stress at home. It could be for a family crisis. He could be having mental health issues. But the employee assistance programs are designed to keep good employees, and the employee needs to ask for help prior to the disciplinary action taking place. Now, moving forward with this section in the Fire Officer 2 class, you're going to have two problems. So the first problem is going to be writing a policy or procedure based on a issue that's going on in your firehouse. So I put the problem up there. Read the problem, use the skill sheet to work your way through the problem, and provide or present a well-written policy or plan to take corrective action in your firehouse based on the problem that I gave you. The second problem is going to be to put together a plan for improvement, for advancement for a firefighter in your fire department. So if you can think of, you don't have to use their name, but if you can think of somebody that you would like to see advance, maybe from a firefighter position to a driver operator, or from a firefighter position to an officer position, just use that person but don't use their name, and put together an advancement plan. So if you could go to this firefighter and say, listen, I think you'd make a good fire officer. Here's some things that you probably want to start working on to move your way up the ladder. All right. So give me a well-written program, and we'll see you for the next time.